Bilbo, where are you going?
I'm going on an adventure.
Don't you mean an adventure?
Actually, no. Adventure.
Hi, my name's Jonny, and today we are taking a look at the Ampeg Venture Series. We all know and love Ampeg. We've seen countless legendary 8x10s and SVTs up on stage, and this is Ampeg's modern take on that incredible but sometimes impractical gear. Gone are the days of breaking your back lugging a whole 8x10 up the stairs, and so we have got this brand new setup here. With me today I have got the V3, which is a 300 watt Class D powered amp, the V12, which is a 1200 watt head, the VB210, which is a, you guessed it, 2x10, and the matching 4x10 underneath. Now, I first tried this range at the Birmingham Guitar Show. It just sounded so good. I took my trusty P-Bass with me and played it at the show and was like, yeah, I really want to I really want to delve deeper into what these things can do. So I reached out to Ampeg and they very kindly agreed to let me borrow these units to demo today. So I do have to say that they have sent me this gear to check out today, but that's not going to have an impact on my thoughts, etc. Let's just crack on with what we've got here. The V12 comes in at just under £1,000 and the V3 is about £440. 1200 watts, £1,000. That's really good. On the front, you'll see some familiar controls as well as some new ones for this range. We've got a gain right at the start, followed by a bass, mid control with a sweepable frequency, treble, and a master volume. What I love about Ampegs is the ultra low and the ultra high switches as well, meaning you can really create that scoopy, gritty tone just by simple controls on here, by boosting the lows and boosting the highs to give you that kind of mid-scoop frequency. And the ability to control that mid-frequency on here is really, really great as well. So you can really dial in the exact sound that you're after. And then we go on to some of the more modern features that have been added into here. The first of which being a built-in gain channel. So we have got the Super Grit technology, and that gives you the benefit of having one of Ampeg's signature drives right at your fingertips. Switch here to turn it on and off, and then one to switch between SVT for that more modern sounding drive to the B15, which is their kind of vintage flip-top style amp, and the kind of warm gain that you might get from something like that. A little bit more subtle, perhaps. Now, obviously, the V3 is a lot smaller, and one of the differences is that it doesn't have a built-in compressor like the V12 and the V7 does. There's actually a 700 watt version in here as well, which sits right in the middle. Now, one other bonus feature that the V12 has over the V3 is the ability to have a wet and dry mix knob for your effects loops. If you're running anything through the back of this with that is a really handy feature. And whilst the V3 only has one output, 4 ohms, 300 watts, the V12 has 2 speaker outputs, and that is what you're hearing today going into the 210 and the 410 underneath. For this demo, of course, you're hearing the DI blended with these 2 microphones on the 410, but in the room, I'm using the 210 as well, and you really get use of that full headroom, and it just sounds so full and thick through this whole 610 setup. If I was using the V3, I'd probably just go through the 210 for maybe a smaller gig, as this one can handle 600 watts peak and 1200 watts for the 410. So now let's have a listen to what this bad boy over here can really do. For this demo, what you're hearing is my crafted in Japan 1997 P-Bass going straight into the V12 out of both of the cabs, but then just miking up the 410 down here with an Audix D6 and a Shure SM57. This is just everything set at 12 o'clock with the compression at about 10 or 11 o'clock. I mean, straight off the bat, it's just a great sounding amp. Super loud. Got the volume about halfway in this room, and that's going to suit any needs that you're going to need. Loads of headroom in the V12 to give you loads of power. So any kind of size stage, this is going to be amazing for. Instead of going through every single sound you can get here, I'm going to try and dial in what might be my favorite sound out of an SVT. And that is with the ultra low and the ultra high boosted. Let's hear that. Already you're getting kind of more of that scoopy sound, suits a P bass down to the ground, as you're already getting quite a lot of mid-range out of one of these. I've given it even more of that scoop mid sound now by boosting the bass treble and scooping the mid frequency to about 9 o'clock. Now we're talking. This is really where Ampeg shines, I think. It just creates this really punchy sound that would suit any genre and any kind of mix, I think. Let's hear what we've got so far just with fingers. So it sounds pretty good, but there's still a bit of mid-range I want to play around with. So I'm now going to move the mid-frequency, we're at 1K at the minute, towards 3K. So using the mid-frequency sweeper, I've turned this up all the way to 3K, and we're scooping most of this, and this will give you a bit more of a modern sound. It's interesting, I think with fingerstyle it sounds better scooping some of those lower mids a bit more. That sounds great, honestly. Like, there's been no bad sounds so far. There's just personal preference in terms of where you put your mid frequency. What's great with this knob is that you can really set it where you want, and that can change depend on the bass and what kind of style you're playing. Now let's do what we came here to do and turn up the gain. On the current EQ settings I've now changed it so that the B15 grit is on. In this setting, it sounds really nice, quite scooped, but still giving you that warmth and drive that B15 is well known for. If I just keep it on the same settings a minute and change to the SVT, You can hear it's much brighter, much more modern sounding, and yeah, this is a bit of me. I just realised that was with the gain dialed all the way. So let's put it down to 50%. For me, I really love the inclusion of the SGT drive in here because it means you can really thicken up the sound. There's one main criticism I'd have, it's that without that, it's good sounding. But it's not as kind of warm and full as it could be. So turning that on and having the drive as this kind of low saturation in the sound is really, really great and helps it gain that kind of signature Ampeg sound. Now, what's really nice about this amp is that it's kind of emulating that valve thing that when you push it a bit harder, it gets that point of breakup. And you can kind of hear that if I start playing a little harder with my fingers. It's really, really natural sounding, which is great. Starts to get more aggressive as the player gets a bit more aggressive. So it makes a playing experience for this amp really, really great. And talk a bit about the compressor. It's kind of been sat on 10 o'clock the whole time. If we turn it off, on at 50%, 75%, I think this compressor is actually pretty good, and I actually rate it a bit higher than the compressor that's built into the preamp pedal, the SGT DI. Even when it's on full, it doesn't sound too unnatural and too like squashy. I think it does sound a bit like the attack's a bit too high, the attack's a bit too fast. It's doing a great job at keeping every string the same volume and every note that you're playing, and that's great. Let's hear that in full force by turning off any kind of drive, so we're totally clean and doing a bit of slap. On a P bass, disgusting! I really like a nice passive P bass with a real amp and then destroying it all with disgusting drive. And so we're going to do that now with the Big Booty Judy from Backburner Noise. It is essentially a Rat clone with the blend kind of at 75% and the drive not super high, but in the standard Rat setting instead of the Turbo Rat. So with the drive turned on here, but that giving you that subtle warmth, sounds like this. Put on the BBJ. Can really handle drive super well, and yeah, just sounds absolutely incredible. Now, whilst this all sounds great, that doesn't mean that it's all sunshine and rainbows. I've actually gigged the 410 and the V12 a couple of times now, and each time sounds absolutely amazing coming through the cab, but I've then heard how it sounds like on just the DI coming out at me on the monitors. Now, when you're running any kind of drive or anything like that, you kind of want a cab sim on there to take off some of that harshness and make it sound like there's a real amp being driven as opposed to a distorted DI signal, which I don't think sounds very nice at all. So I think one feature that this could really do with having is a built-in cab sim. Now, I say that, you might have seen recently my review of the Ampeg SGT DI pedal. The cab sim is the biggest thing that lets it down. So if we could have a similar upgrade where we're able to use the SVT suite and choose what microphones you have and where the speakers are, etc., on this would make it just destroy everything else in the market, you know, because that is really what would be attractive to a lot of bass players, specifically in the genres where you're slamming it with drive. The other big gripe that I have is that V12 in particular doesn't take a standard Speakon cable. I had to reach out to Ampeg and say, hey, my speaker cables don't fit. What? I'll put a link in the description to the Andertons where you can find the exact Speakon cable. Whilst I mention Andertons, if you go to the Andertons affiliate link and buy something through there, at no extra cost to you, I get some money from it, which is great. If you're planning on making any purchases, such as this entire rig, make sure you use my affiliate link and I'll get a little something off of your purchase. And whilst you're down there, press like and subscribe, you plebs. Now, of course, like I said at the start, the Ampegs are kind of notoriously well known as well for being ridiculously heavy. They are super, super light without sacrificing any of the quality. They feel really, really well made at the same time. So it's kind of a win-win there. Despite there being one or two things you need to know going in and a few features I would have liked here and there, overall, I'd really recommend all of the products that you're seeing here, both in terms of feel and sound and price. You know, they're really, really worth it and just fantastic overall. Thanks for Ampeg for sending me this gear to review. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.